Welcome to Latina Literati, a channel for Latinas and the Latina friendly. This is a place where we talk about people, ideas, places, and of course lots of books. So welcome back, and if this is your first time here, also welcome. Please feel free to comment, subscribe, enjoy, and stay till the end because there's always scintillating book information at the end. So today, in honor of February, we're going to talk about Rome's favorite festival, Lupercalia, 3-day festival culminating on February 15th. The festival was dedicated to the founder of Rome, Romulus, to Fauna, the god of agriculture, and to Pan, the horned goat god of lust and licentiousness. Pan embodied male physical desire, ergo the phrase "Randy as a goat." You recall Romulus and Remus were abandoned by their parents and they were found by a she-wolf, lupa in Italian, loba in Espanol, shout out to Shakira. This is also a term used for women in the oldest profession on earth. So who knows who actually suckled the twins? But the bottom line is a she-wolf found them, suckled them, and then they were raised by a shepherd and his wife. They grew up and Romulus kills Remus in a fit of fury, nothing like fratricide, to found a city, and founds Rome. We're not going to talk about where he got the women, but let's just say Sabine. So this festival was ushered in by two groups of priests, young men from the noble families of Rome, one representing the followers of Remus, the Fabii, and one representing the followers of Romulus, the Quintilii. During the festival, they would come together in the sacred wolf cave on the Palatine Hill and sacrifice 2 goats and a dog, some say a pup, in place of a wolf. The festival began with 2 young men representing the brothers Romulus and Remus, and they were smeared with the sacrificial blood on their foreheads, and then it was wiped away with goat's milk soaked wool. They'd be cleaned off there. Some say this was meant as a peacemaking between the 2 brothers and their followers, kind of a reenactment or what should have been peaceful between the brothers. The meat was used for the feast, and the skins were boiled down, and then strips were made of the skins of the goats. Each of the priests would have a long strip. The priests would then leave their clothing in the cave, take the strip, and then go down the Via Sacra trying to hit especially women. Women wanted to be hit because to be hit by these sacred goat strips meant fertility, it meant easy childbirth, which was pretty much what was expected of women in those days. So little. The original Roman calendar had 10 months, and February was actually the last month of the year. So it was dedicated to the Queen of the Heavens. You'll remember Juno. She was the wife of Jupiter, and so the original name was Junio Febralia, and so it was a time of purification. This Lupercalia, this festival, is one of the oldest festivals of human history. It was already celebrated for over 1,000 years when in 44 BC, Julius Caesar imposed a 3rd group of priests, the Julii, of course, and the priests were normally young men of the noble families, but Julius Caesar chose Mark Antony to represent him running through the Via Sacra with his goat whip. And next to Julius Caesar, watching these priests come down the Via Sacra, was none other than Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt. So she was there, and some say had a hand in Mark Antony actually offering Caesar an Eastern-style crown, a diadem, which he supposedly turned down 3 times because being king of Rome was an anathema to the Republic. Something like fascism and democracy. Anathemas. Can't exist, can't coexist in any case. It would be this act that would be used by his enemies in the Senate and would turn members of the Senate against him, because this was seen as an insult to the Roman Republic, even offering him that crown. And since the 15th of February is the Ides of February, 30 days later, on the 15th of March, the Ides of March, Julius Caesar would be stabbed on the steps of the Senate by senators and his adopted son Brutus. The famous words, "Et tu, Brutus, et tu," it's you, it's you. But let's get back to the festival. The festival of lust, if not love. So what better purification than to let all of your desires out? It is said that there was a lottery in a large urn with women's names that men would pick out, and then they would be together for the festival. Many stayed together until the next festival, and some even got married. Think of it as ancient Tinder or Bumble. This festival was so beloved by the people of Rome that it survived the fall of the Western Empire. It survived the move of the capital of the Roman Empire from Rome to Constantinople, current day Istanbul, the changing of the Roman calendar, and Constantine proclaiming Christianity as the official religion of the Roman Empire. That's how beloved this festival was. It would take several centuries until Pope Gelasius in the 5th century said, "Enough is enough. We are going to stop this party. So let's switch it up, and we're going to make it a festival to the chaste Virgin Mary and ban all these pagan, lustful traditions." But Constantine declares Christianity the official Roman religion in the 3rd century, and Gelasius bans this in the 5th century, and they still can't do away with this festival that people want. So it is several hundred years later that they're able to squelch it more and more and more. There is an overlap of several centuries between the festival of Lupercalia in full mode and the saints that were said to be Saint Valentine. There are at least 3 historical persons that were named Valentine and are wrapped up in the legend of who Saint Valentine was. Most of them were martyred by Claudius II. He definitely did not want followers of this new religion, Christianity, getting too uppity. There's one story that a priest fell in love with his jailer's daughter, and before he met his end, he wrote her a note saying, "Signed, your Valentine." So you have to remember that in the first millennia of the church, priests could marry, so that wasn't a big deal. There's another story that a priest named Valentine was marrying the Praetorian Guards so they wouldn't live in sin. Many of the Praetorian Guards had converted to Christianity, and the emperor didn't want the guards married. He wanted them ready to be sent to battle without any family. And so that priest then was also martyred by the Roman emperor. So in any case, Valentine died for love. One way or another, Valentine died for love. So the exchange of notes were not common. So you'll remember that most people on Earth did not read. In other words, illiteracy was the norm. Mandatory attendance at school is less than really 200 years old. So you're talking about millennia, most of human history. Most people could not read. Priests were a group that could, like scribes, some of the nobility. So there's some examples of kings sending queens notes in February for this Día del Cariño in Spanish, Valentine's Day in English. The first exchange of cards and chocolates starts during the Victorian era, which we consider to be really repressed, but they actually, had some of these interesting developments. They had the famous language of love in flowers, and that's really when the commercialization of Valentine's Day begins. In Europe, of course. So printing was more commonplace, and chocolates had reached Europe because people talk about, oh, Belgian chocolates, oh, French chocolates, oh, whatever. But the reality is there's not a cacao tree in the European continent. So cacao is a tropical plant. It is endemic to this hemisphere. And in fact, it's graded like you give points for wine or coffee. Some of the best cacao on earth comes from Venezuela. Very good cacao in Central America. And there's cacao in Africa. So you kind of have to follow the equator for cacao. And I don't know if you know that most of the roses that you'll see in the United States for the Valentine celebrations are brought in on these huge planes from Ecuador. Ecuador is the rose capital of the world. For many years, what I did to mark this day, although I believe that every day is a day to show love to those you care about, is I would have a cena de amor. And so I would make a nice, I would prepare a menu many times with different types of fondue, whether it's chocolate, and there'd always be some sort of chocolate, usually in dessert. And of course that stopped some years ago for obvious reasons, but this year we'll gather again with family and friends and celebrate Valentine's Day and Dia del Cariño. And so I hope that you'll be able to celebrate not just on Valentine's Day, but every day, the love that you have in your life. So now for some romantic book recommendations. I realized as I was coming up with these recommendations that romance isn't really a genre that I delve too much into, so I'm sure that there are others that can give you maybe a greater breadth of romantic novels. But I mean, I think there's some classic novels that many of you have read. Madame Bovary, all of Jane Austen, Dr. Zhivago, The Great Gatsby. In Latin American literature, Agua para Chocolate, Cien Años de Soledad. I mean, there's so many books with love as a central theme, but I thought I would share just two, and I'm not sure why, but I tend to really enjoy books that have a historical background to the love story. And so the first book that impacted me because it took me beyond my understanding was The Persian Boy by Marie Renault. And so she tells a story of Boagas, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Boagas, a Persian noble young man who is captured, castrated, and put into the harem of Darius, the Persian emperor. You will remember that Alexander the Great, by age 21, had conquered most of the known world, including victory over Darius the emperor, and so he of course inherits his harem, and this young Persian boy becomes his favorite. Really interesting because Alexander the Great marries a Bactrian princess. Bactria is current day Afghanistan, ergo the Bactrian camel that it only has one hump as opposed to the other type of camel has two. And her name was Roxanne. So he was married, he had children with her, but the love of his life, or at least it seems from recorded history, was this young Persian boy. And so when they finally settle in Alexandria, because you remember that wherever he went, he established cities called Alexandria, or sometimes they're called Iskanderia. Unfortunately, the Persian boy ends up face down in the Nile because, you know, in this court, everybody's jealous, everybody's poisoning everybody else. So what I most enjoyed was the historical depth, nuance, and detail of Marie Renault's telling of this love story that for me was kind of a new take on love. And so what I would say that I've learned in general is that it's only in the last 2,000 years where you have to say I'm A, B, or C. Before that, I think you just enjoyed whatever you enjoyed, and you may enjoy it today, and you may enjoy something else tomorrow, and so you didn't have to like pigeonhole yourself as you do today. and I feel like that's very liberating. The second book that really impacted me was Marguerite Yourcenar's Memorias, Adriano, Memories of Hadrian. And again, I'll link all of these below in the description box. I always say go to your library. I'm sure that your libraries have all of this. If you're in a community that doesn't have a library or isn't serviced by one, I'll also, the links below will be to booksellers like Better World Books that with every purchase, they donate books to communities in need of literacy materials. So it's a wonderful way of supporting literacy in other places with your purchase. Marguerite Yourcenar, born in Belgium, is the first woman inducted into the French Academy for Literature. And her use of language, I read it in Spanish, but it must be amazing in French in the original language, and I'm sure it's amazing in English too, but her use of language, her words, her turn of phrase are so beautiful. I'm even getting emotional here just thinking about the way that her language caresses your eyes and ears. And so she's just an inspiring woman, amazing writer, and that book, it took me a while to read because it was not a book that you just read. It was a book that you sit and savor every paragraph. And again, it gives you an in-depth view into the Emperor Hadrian and also, of course, his loves. So those are my recommendations. Again, I'm sure there are many others, but I hope you'll enjoy. And let me know what other recommendations you have in the comments below. What are your favorite books, romance or otherwise? And also let us know if you'd like us to discuss anything in particular subject matter, and we'll try and do that. So enjoy this Valentine's Day, a condensed, minuscule version of what must have been just a wild party in Rome, Lupercalia. Thank you so much for coming to the end of the video. Please like, share, comment. We would love to hear from you. Love to hear what you're thinking and your thoughts on books. So enjoy, and we'll see you in a video soon. Gracias.